Across the United States, Canada, and the world. Many of these are inaccessible to normal aircraft. There's a certain breed of pilot who wants to be able to land anywhere, either for sport or by pure necessity. They're bush pilots. We practice these skills so we can be safe off airport, so we can get into and out of the tight spots, the backcountry, and the unimproved fields. You'll now watch some of the best pilots in the world show you what they can do with as little as 50 feet. Not only can they take off and land off airport, they can take off and land anywhere. This is the Husky National STOL Series. The Husky National STOL Series is presented by Husky and Avion Aircraft, America's favorite tail dragger. McFarlane Aviation Products, thousands of parts, save thousands of dollars. American Legend Aircraft, not your grandfather's Cub. Duke Propellers, offering a wide variety of carbon-made propellers and rotors. Sarasota Avionics, the #1 aircraft avionics installer in the nation. Rugged Radios, the official communications provider of National STOL. Ladd Gardner Aviation Insurance, aviation protected. Sporty's Pilot Shop, learn to fly here. The Fat Tire Cowboys, an aviation adventure brand steeped in cowboy lore. And now, live from Hartford, Wisconsin, this is the Husky National STOL Series, Sodbusters STOL.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our wonderful event, Sodbusters 2022. We're here for Competition Day, right before Oshkosh, with some of the greatest pilots, planes, and fans in the business. This is Husky National STOL, and next to me I've got Ryan Dabrowski from Super Aero Live. He's going to be joining me on the mic for the remainder of the day. It's
the whole day. We're going to be talking the whole day about airplanes flying slow and low.
And sometimes landing where they're supposed to.
And sometimes landing where they're And by the way, I should introduce you, Eric Farewell,
Happy
aviator PPG fame, among other things, Paradigm.
Aerobatics.
You do aerobatic things and parachutes with butt fans on your back.
We try to fly all the things we can. We try to have lots of fun because I love all things aviation, and that's why I'm here, because we're with what will end up being over 1 million people watching this video. I'm just going to go ahead and believe that, right?
It's a little bit stressful.
And they're going to be watching us right here with the Blue Angels behind us, the Porta-Johns. We're hyper-professional here at National STOL. And we've got quite the lineup for you guys. We're going to be going through all of our classes. We're going to explain how the competition works for those who've not been at one of these before. Right. And we're going to see some really incredible piloting. I truly believe it. Yesterday's practice, we saw some impressive numbers, especially from our experimental bush category. These guys are getting takeoffs in the 25-foot range, and a new contender for top pilot with Hal Stockman's new 915 Franken motor. I think we're going to see some shenanigans.
Definitely one to watch. And also, I think I would just want to point out, we have a lot of newbies. New pilots, rookie pilots coming out to Sodbusters for the first time. And during practice yesterday, we watched them improve dramatically, practice after practice run. And that's going to be exciting to see, because you never know if you can have an upset.
You absolutely can have an upset. And one of the things that's important to recognize about what National STOL stands for and why we're all here is that you don't have to be a professional pilot to come out here. We have pilots here who have we have a gentleman right here who has gorgeous Husky. We couldn't figure out who it was yesterday. Well, part of the reason for that is he just bought that Husky in March.
What?
So he's out here competing because the purpose of National STOL's competition is not to be the best pilot in the world. It's to be the safest pilot, to learn how to put your airplane exactly where you want it and to get off the ground as quickly as possible, as safely as possible, working your deck angles, understanding exactly where the energy of the airplane is, and that's what these pilots are out here doing today. So super excited. We have a few folks in the pattern right now. Luke in the MOAC on approach right now. He's going to be just getting a couple practice rounds in before the actual competition begins. We have some late arrivals like Colin Kosabinski, who just flew all night. I think he left at 10 o'clock last night from Virginia in his Super Cub, as well as our very good friend Kyle Bushman, who's actually flying this incredible one of three complete one-off Super Cubs. There's not a single Super Cub part on the airplane. It is completely different. And get this, it has over 60 gallons of usable fuel on board. That's a 10-hour leg with reserve.
That's a lot of dinosaurs. Maybe now would be a good time to talk about the rules. Because I know we have a crowd assembling here in Hartford, Wisconsin today, and we have the viewers popping in. As we get these last practice runs done, let's talk about the rules in case you've never been. I can't imagine you would. This would be your first time seeing this, but in case you've never been to a National STOL event, here's how it works. It's basically like the normal spot landing contest you might have at your local airport. We've got a line painted on the runway here at Hartford Airport, and you'll see as this practice run is happening right now, the goal is to land as close to that line as possible.
But not before it.
It's like landing on the carrier deck.
It's not quite as deadly if you land early on a carrier deck.
Right, that's true. Yeah, you're trying to be Maverick out there, landing right on the 3-wire. And then you'll see two things happen to get the scores. One, pilots will taxi up to that line, and they'll take off. You'll see the line judges off in the distance there run and spot where the last main wheel left the ground. That's the first component of your score. The second component comes on that landing. You land after the line, heavy on the brakes, and we add that distance to your takeoff distance to give you your combined score.
So this is the only way this is like golf, but the goal here is the lowest possible score, right?
It's literally the only way it's like golf.
It's the only way it's like golf. But what's really neat about this is they're working really hard to get over that line, and if they don't get over the line, we call it a scratch. So you're going to hear that phrase a lot. A scratch is when they get there before the line, get those main gears down, whether it's the front tires on the tail wheel or the rear tires on a tricycle gear airplane. They need to make sure that those tires are over the line safely beforehand. So we're going to be getting ready here as we see Kyle Bushman in that beautiful Bushcraft 3. That's a big boy. It is a scratch.
Would have been an example of a scratch for those of you watching at home.
But you can see just how quickly he's able to get it stopped. And that's a heavy airplane. That airplane, again, all custom parts. Not another airplane like it in the world. That airplane is completely custom built for Kyle. And I got to say, if you look at the way the wings are set up, look how small the ailerons are versus the flap distance. You're going to see those really slow, stabilized approaches out of Kyle today. And, Kyle's been flying a long time. He flies in STOL drag. He actually helps organize STOL drag. And it's great to see him here showing what he can do and showing his level of flight, because that's what this is all about.
Big, as my kids would call them, flappy dappies.
Big flappy dappies.
Big flappy dappies on that plane. Also, if you are watching at home, we have new technology this week where you can actually comment, and we will see your comment on the screen there. So we've got some folks in the chat. Paul Yarger says, many beautiful examples of STOL aircraft. Go team, Sodbusters, and pilots. Thank you so much, Paul. Thanks for watching on Facebook.
I got to say this, though. As much as I love all the social stuff, one of the things that I think is most exciting to me about being right here in Hartford is this is where you learn to fly.
This is where I learned to fly. This
is a J3 Cub.
J3 Cub at Cub Air Flight, just over on the ramp there. Our hosts for Sodbusters this week. We really appreciate their help. And yeah, actually this runway 1836 is where I soloed for the first time. So it feels a little, we were talking about it yesterday, feels a little emotional coming back home, seeing where it all started for me.
That's so cool. And what's one of the neat things for me is I could just imagine little baby Ryan coming out here, flying this runway and taking off and landing a J3. We're going to see a J3 that has some history. Here,
that's true.
A Hartford historical J3 built in 1990 by the pilot Jake's father. He's going to be flying a C-85-powered experimental J3 in the light experimental category, or the light sport category, I should say. I think he's the only contestant, which means he wins the prizes.
He wins!
Yeah. It's a pretty great prize, too. We've got a great prize pool here. National STOL always does a great job. Thanks to all of our sponsors. And I know that we're just getting ready to get started now, but we want to walk through those sponsors because without them, this would not be possible. It takes a lot of work to get all these people in place, whether it's the production folks, the pilots, just all the support that comes behind this event. You have to understand that most of the people here are here actually for free. They're all volunteers. They're here excited to be able to help out. So we want to thank those sponsors. Of course, our title sponsor, Aviate Aircraft Husky. They have a bunch of people here flying Huskies, and this is kind of I don't know if you'd call it the BMW, the Cadillac. It's just a comfortable airplane.
Quintessential Bush aircraft, absolutely.
Absolutely. It's not going to be out there trying to chase after the Carbon Cubs or whatnot, but it's going to be doing it in style with that diamond seating and just everything they have. They're just gorgeous, gorgeous
Very
airplanes.
Luxurious, and also they make great hats.
They do. All right, we are ready now. We'll talk more about sponsors shortly because I just got the word from the man in the earpiece here. He says that we can do the lineup, and it's a very special lineup because heavy touring, these are airplanes with the heaviest gross weights, are ready to get things kicked off. And these are some of the crowd favorites. We've got Aaron Greer in a 1959 Cessna 182. And then I have to bring up the man, the myth, the legend, quite possibly the most anticipated pilot of this event.
Well, that could be. Are you going in order? Or are you going?
I'm going in order.
You're going in order. Andrew Patry? Or are you going Warren Grobelar?
I got to talk about
those
Andrew.
Those are fighting words, man.
Andrew has a new propeller.
Oh, I see where you're getting at.
He's convinced that he's going to take down Warren. We had a huge showdown and an upset at Swamp STOL where we thought that Andrew had it, and it was an error with our number input, so it ended up being given back to Warren, who's obviously a crowd favorite. But Andrew, with this reversible pitch propeller, it's an MT prop. It makes a big snap, and when he wants to, he can throw it in reverse and back the airplane into place. In fact, we're going to show a video right now to the live stream. You'll see him backing into his parking spot yesterday.
Here we go.
It does work
on the screen. Yeah, Warren, who I thought you were talking about, because he's got a beautiful mustache.
He does.
He says, so sick. And he's backing there he is on the live feed backing up. So now, here's the thing, though. And we've seen that there are other aircraft in National STOL that have had that capability, and it's not always a silver bullet, because pilot workload super high when you've got that reversible pitch propeller.
And not just the pilot workload, but you have to understand that these different airplanes have different operational characteristics because of their motors. We know that Austin Clemens has been rocking that seaplane MT prop that allows him to throw it in reverse on an IO 360. But on the 470 that Andrew has, it has much lower oil pressure once it gets hot. So he's having issues where it would not go into beta because you have to be below 1100 RPM, but still have high oil pressure. So he says that he's pretty convinced he can get one beta landing. And then once the engine warms up, all bets are off. So this is the kind of thing that really makes or breaks. You have to be looking at the technical, the mechanical, and then the piloting skill, because we know that they're already really close, that Andrew and Warren are so close. And Don Mickey is in this mix
Not
too.
messing around either. Yeah, I was going to say, let's not forget Don.
Dude, Don, yesterday, if you watched his landings, he was taking that massive spring gear on the 180, and he was literally flexing it fully 3 times. It would land, recoil, come back down, and he's putting a lot of the energy that would normally be forward facing. He's actually putting the energy into the ground.
Yep.
So Don, he's coming from a lot higher density altitude. This is some thick air for him coming out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. So this is a different experience. I'm excited to see how this lineup takes to the skies and who takes home the trophy. All right, we've got an intro from Don. Kick it over and enjoy meeting Don, guys. This is awesome.
Got the Norland conversion on the engine, so it's a little bit more horsepower, kind of a fairly rare mod, but
Thank you.
it helps a lot. MT prop is
Thanks for having us.
wonderful. I've updated a lot of the things on this plane differently from a lot of the STOL pilots. It's not just for STOL, better for cross country, new panel, all digital, that kind of stuff. So it's hopefully a little more versatile.
And we're back live. We have the heavy touring getting ready to start up. I see pilots in their planes. Warren Grobel are coming all the way from Naples, Florida. I got the opportunity to ride in the back of that airplane for, I think it was 26 hours. I don't really remember how long it was.
It's a long time.
All the way to Mayday Stol Drag back 2 months ago. Just absolutely awesome pilot. Warren's from South Africa, and there's a South African delicacy called biltong, which is a beef jerky.
I don't like the way this is going.
It's beef jerky, baby. I make it myself, and I found out that Warren likes it on our way to Swamp Stol, so I brought like 2.5 pounds, and let me tell you, we killed the entire bag of jerky. Absolutely
It was
awesome.
probably great. I should try it.
You'd love it. I promise it's delicious. It's about half of my diet at this point. It's just no breakfast, no lunch, eat dinner and biltong the rest of the day. But super excited to have these guys take it to the field. The number 46 on his tail is an homage to Valentino Rossi, 7-time multi-GP winner, world champion 7 times, I should say. And they are being released by the Airboss as we speak. We're going to see these gentlemen take to that line. They'll line up and wait, and each of them will be very carefully placing their main gear tires on the white line. Now, again, that doesn't mean that their nose wheels for the nose draggers in the group can't be beyond it. So the main gear is all that really matters to us. And the first up is our man, Aaron Greer, in the green and white 1959 Cessna 182.
So let's talk a little bit about this class as they taxi up to the line. People wonder about how do we keep it fair? Part of the way that we keep it fair is we have aircraft grouped into classes. Eric, you mentioned this a little bit earlier. It's determined by mostly gross weight. We'll talk about some exceptions as we get a little bit further into the competition today. But heavy touring, that's models gross weights from 2,500 pounds to 3,600 pounds. These are your 180s, your 185s, 206, the big malls, absolutely. So they're grouped by weight. This is, in my opinion, one of the more exciting classes to watch because they are big, they are heavy. There's Andrew showing off with a little reverse action, making sure it's ready to go before we start. These are planes that if you were going to do some backcountry flying with your whole family and a whole bunch of gear, this is what you'd pick up.
And what's really cool about these airplanes, Warren usually flies with a motorcycle in the back of the airplane. Aaron off the ground about 150 feet, 160 feet looks like. No, I see people on the line much earlier. We'll see who makes the call here. And we'll be keeping an eye on our score sheet. But next up is Andrew Patry. They'll release him about 20 or so seconds off after the next plane, or before the next plane. And we hear the engine start to spool. Listen to the MT prop.
It's got a little bit of a whistle.
It does, and it makes a nice bark as she climbs down the runway.
Ooh, digging the tail in for Andrew. And you'll notice as he starts to sink, he gets that nose back down, and he's milking up the flaps. Is that actually what you call it?
You could call it milking.
Nursing the flaps up? I don't know. We're stuck in milk metaphors because we're in Wisconsin.
One of the things that we're doing, and you'll notice at this event that's different than other national STOL events and other STOL competitions in general, is that we're working to keep the pilots as safe as possible, increasing their speeds on the upwind, on the downwind, and on their landing pattern. We want to make sure that we're keeping those speeds up. As Steve Henry says, this is not a slow flight competition. It is a STOL competition. So they want to be at 20 feet at the end of our 400-foot strip, no higher. Don on the roll. Don Mickey takes this completely different than we'll see from Warren. We see he waits to raise the tail.
That right main did not do him any favors on that takeoff.
It didn't indeed.
And I think the judges may even be a little generous with where they're at based on what I saw, but what do I know?
That's not a problem, though. Let's take a look at Warren Grobelar. We're going to see a completely different style. Warren, much more aggressive. He'll be diving the aircraft toward the ground, getting that full yoke deflection forward. Brakes will be locked. Tails off the ground immediately. Generally, he'll dive about 5 degrees more, then pull the tail, getting the airplane off the ground sub 200 feet. Looked like about 180. Very impressive. We're looking now at our scoreboard here. Take a look as these scores start coming in. Don Mickey with 245 feet. Andrew Patry at 167. Pretty exceptional right here. This is the kind of stuff we like to see. Warren Grobelar 182, 15 feet separating Warren and Andrew. No score yet on the board for Aaron Greer, but we'll see that soon. Aaron is on approach. And FD Miller asked a great question on social. He asked if we can still drag the tail gear before the line, or do all the wheels have to go over the line?
You can drag the tail wheel, and you will see that happening probably in the lighter classes. Nice landing for Aaron Greer. Heavy. He's got to get on the brakes. That was a safe one. That was actually really close to the line. He's got one in the books now. Now he can be a little more aggressive.
That's the strategy we want to talk about, is these pilots want to get at least one landing on the books. They want to know that they have something, some score, to guarantee that they're actually still in the running. So some of these pilots will come in a little higher, a little faster, ensuring they get across the line on that first or second run, and then they start pushing it harder and harder, really trying to make sure that they can just slam it in when necessary.
Well, Andrew is on short final. A little bit of a higher approach here. You got the flaps.
Oh, he's working the flaps.
Yeah,
he just popped them up and down. That's a trick I like to do. I don't fly a STOL plane like this right now. My Kit Fox is being built, but I often tweak the flaps. Beautiful control.
Right on the line.
And he tried for that reverse thrust. Did not work for him as he was hoping. Again, that balance point between RPM and oil pressure.
And that's the thing that actually, we talked about, is it the silver bullet? It's not. You heard him apply throttle, and if it's not in reverse, he's actually damaging his score.
Exactly.
If it's not popped in reverse.
Big challenges, but that's part of what makes this fun. We've got Don Mickey now on approach, that 180 all the way here from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Quite the difference in space right now.
Yeah. Why is it so green?
I don't understand.
He's getting a little bit of sink there.
Let's take a look and start just keeping an eye on what he does here. Is he going to get in the power? He does have that high alpha
tail
angle.
Wheel touching.
Tail
totally
wheel down.
fine.
Beautiful control there from Don Mickey.
If you can get that tail wheel to touch before the line, which would not work on an aircraft carrier, by the way, if you can do that, that's really beneficial. You've got some extra drag to help slow you down.
As we see Warren Grobelar on approach, we want to thank McFarlane. McFarlane is the world's largest MT propeller distributor, and they're actually one of our sponsors as well. MT propellers on at least 2 of the aircraft in this line. I think 3. I think Aaron has one as well. These guys love their MT props, and after flying behind one for all those hours in Nebraska and back, I have to say, it's quiet, it spools up smooth as heck, and it has a lot of power. Warren Grobelar.
The one to watch.
Power off. Nice and safe this time, but he's got those big tires, allowing him to lock up the brakes with a little larger contact patch than Don Mickey. We see a current score, Aaron Greer at 487 combined. Don Mickey, 482, beating out Aaron. Andrew Patry is 10 feet ahead at 472. And while they're lining back up, would you mind walking people through what is the most consistent award? Because this is one of the most valued awards out there.
So most consistent. I mean, a lot of people come out and watch the competition and they'll say, I don't know if this is totally fair because some of the light experimental classes, things like that, can get off really short and land really short. So how do we have another great equalizer across all of the classes? That's where we bring in the most consistent award. Basically what we're doing is just like if you're shooting an arrow at a target. If you can get all those arrows lined up in the exact same place, you're incredibly consistent. We're trying to do that here as well. So that what they do is they take people's combined scores and then they match them run to run and see what the deviation between those are.
Warren Gribble are driving by. I'm giving him a number one finger because he is in first place with a combined score of 384, putting him 88 feet shorter than his competition. Warren Gribble loves taking first. A very competitive guy, actually a big athlete. He was a swimmer in college. And he is the guy to beat out here. But as Brian was saying, this most consistent award is really interesting because we see pilots really dialing in for that. Austin Clemens in Lakeland last year with only a 6 foot deviation between all three of his takeoffs and landings. 6 feet difference is pretty insane. And Austin is often the man to beat. He's also kind of an all-around nice guy. Looks a lot like a young Micah. The young Michael Lindstrom.
I don't know what he feels about that. Here's Andrew Patry in the Bumblebee. Andrew, also the one to beat. Lots of heavy touring wins for him. First place 2022 Outlaw STOL. First place heavy touring Lone Star. First place at Outlaw STOL 2021, as well as Outlaw STOL in 2022.
And you have to go back there as well to STOL Drag. 2022 Copper State STOL Drag. That's a big one to win. And getting in third place there is nothing to snivel at for sure.
Now Don Mickey on the line. He's in 2252 Charlie.
Race 53. Don works the publishing business. But for fun, he loves to fly his airplanes.
One thing that I'm noticing too, and I'm sure the heavy touring guys are going to be complaining about it around the campfire tonight, winds not nearly as heavy as they were yesterday during practice. STOL pilots love a good, healthy wind on the nose to help get those scores down, particularly pilots of heavy aircraft.
Exactly. We saw numbers at Sun and Fun this year with Warren Grobel getting takeoffs in the 80-foot range in that massive 180. Once again, diving the airplane toward the ground, using that lateral force of the tail hitting the ground to pick the weight of the engine off the ground. And that was an impressive takeoff
for
indeed.
Nearly nil wind.
Very much so. And in fact, I bet if he'd waited another 10 seconds, he'd be much happier with the score. It's starting to pick back up.
Nice breeze. Hey, you might be wondering to yourself, where can I get more STOL action? What's the next one? The next one is in Wyoming in August.
It's Rocky Mountain STOL, Wyoming, which I got to say, I cannot wait to see how this goes. I want to be there next year if I can be. It's August 11th through 13th. And being right there in the shadow of Jackson, of those Grand Tetons, is going to be an absolutely gorgeous event. This is their first year in Pinedale, Wyoming.
That's one to check out. Man, I got to see if I can get to that one. I'm just looking at the handout they gave us. Beautiful mountains.
I get to be flying in Alaska that whole week, so I feel bad, but I'm pretty excited. All right, Aaron, it's clean. Not quite as short as his last. I think he'll probably be a little frustrated. His last landing was 305 feet. It actually looks like he may be shorter, 275. He was across the line a bit further and a bit hotter than we saw before, but he was able to get on those brakes, and that's what he likes to see is that consistent improvement. Combined score there of 403. That's putting him closer to contention, but we know that we have a really impressive takeoff from Grobelar there. Grobelar shortening his takeoff by 34 feet from the previous.
Low and to your left, you've got Andrew Patry. Can he get it in reverse?
He's in reverse. He's heavy in the reverse. On those brakes as well.
Was he sure he was in reverse, though?
I'm not sure. The bark, that thing barked twice. I'm looking over at Austin Clemens to see if I can get some feedback from a fellow beta pilot. Was that in reverse or not, Austin?
He's on the phone. talking to someone on the phone. He can't help
Austin's
us right
at the
now.
age where he's discovered young ladies, and now he doesn't care as much about airplanes.
Yeah, he's not interested in helping us out at all.
That's all right, though. Impressive performance from Andrew either way. Looks like that landing, combined score of 430, takeoff of 207 and 223 for the landing.
So a pretty good improvement from 472.
It is, but we do now have Don on approach and Grobelar to follow. Don taking a much different approach, this time lower, keeping the power in a bit harder. Watch the transfer of energy as that gear flexes massively.
Getting that tail up and the stick, or the yoke back in the Cessna aircraft. Now here's the thing. He didn't touch down until about the 50-foot mark. Gave about 50 feet on that one.
He did give that up, but if you look at his landings versus anyone else in this class's landings, he's transferring so much more energy from that vertical rate into a immediate stop, and that's just something different that we see from Don. I talked to him just before the competition, and he said he does it on purpose. He doesn't really have any other way of being as competitive on the small tires. He's been waiting. Apparently the tires he's wants have been on backorder for ages, and he's waiting for Behringer to get the STC and all these other challenges, but this is all part of it. Warren Grobelar now from your left.
On the edge this time. You can see him fighting the aircraft a little bit.
Touching down at 48 feet or so. Heavy under braking. Those tires are barely turning. His last landing...
Like 250-ish, I'll call it. We'll see what the judges call in.
Last landing 202 for a combined score of 384. This takeoff was considerably better, but the landing wasn't, giving up 50 feet for a combined score of 400. He has two good scores on the board. And something you need to know about Warren is Warren oftentimes has his Bose headphones playing our live stream through his headset to know where he stands. He wants to know how hard he has to push it and if he needs to be pushing himself to beat Andrew's closest time. Right now he's cemented himself in first, but Andrew said one good beta run and he's got him.
Yeah, he's got it taken care of. Right now, Aaron Greer, second place, 403. Let's see. Andrew Patry, third place with 430, and Don Mickey in fourth currently, 482, unofficially.
Unofficial numbers right now, of course, but we want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Rugged Radios. Rugged, one of the top companies out there to enable large teams to work through over 200 channels of secure frequencies or unsecure frequencies. They have communications for any environment.
Did you have that memorized?
I did.
That was really good. Also, we got to think, we're going to see some of their aircraft a little bit later today, but we got to talk about Legend aircraft. You're going to see some MOACs, the mother of all Cubs, a little bit later today.
A lot of aggression from Aaron Greer here, just limping that left tire off the ground. I think if he had been able to keep the right wing down, he would have had about 25 to 50 feet shorter.
It's a massive game of timing for the pilots, right? They don't want to leave any airspeed on the ground, right? So you see a lot of them will sing songs to themselves. I don't know what song Jay Stanford, the Bush pilot, told me he sings. He sings a song to himself. So they'll be trying to get the timing right based on the wind. Andrew Patry there,
that was dialed.
And very clean, right? The plane didn't sink back down at all. It just popped right into the air.
It's something we talk a lot about is the energy in the aircraft. How much energy is left? Because if you pull too early, those wheels will stick. You'll not be able to get the energy off the ground. If you pull too late, you bounce up to 25 feet and you realize that you could have been off the ground 50 feet sooner. And that's a big challenge. You want to ride that line. But Don now, ready to give it the goose. He's on the roll. Right here, those lighter, smaller tires are enabling him to jump off the ground. A nice performance there from Don Mickey.
Got a good chunk. Got to grab a bite. And actually, we were right. Andrew Patry, best takeoff yet, 159 feet.
Pretty impressive indeed. Don Mickey now coming all the way from Albuquerque, but Aaron flew here from Washington State. And I got to say, that's some dedication. That's a long way.
That's a haul.
I came from Florida, and I felt like I made a trek.
Here's Warren Grobelar again, third run.
Heavy into those flaps. Pretty much perfect timing there. I think if he'd waited a tenth of a second.
I was going to say, it was almost perfect. You could see the mains kind of not quite leap into the air.
That's what Warren's looking for. He wants that precision. And one of the cool things about Warren is, even though he has all these titles, he's won a lot of times. Warren, as of the time we left for Mayday Stol Drag, I believe he had around 600 hours of flight time. So he jumped into national stol competitions really early on compared to a lot of people. He started with a Cessna 170, and then buying this 180, he really has made a name for himself with great control and obviously a hilarious attitude. The fans that come out for him at his hometown show of Sun and Fun, it is like nothing you've ever seen before, and I hope we don't see it too many other places.
Yeah, there's lots of booing. Lots of booing. You know, you mentioned the Rossi thing with him. I asked him why. He said it's because then I have merch already designed for me.
Exactly. Until Rossi's lawyers get in touch. Ooh, Aaron with the scratch.
Is that the first? That was actually the first scratch of the competition, if I'm not mistaken.
Which is really incredible. Oftentimes, we see these guys trying so hard to push to get down as quickly as possible that scratching is, I'd say most pilots are probably 40% scratch. Some are considerably higher, but those are the pilots who are getting the best scores. So even though they may only have one score on the board, it's all right. Andrew now apparently did have his best takeoff of all time here at National Stol with 159 feet, and that's actually
with no wind.
With basically no wind, and we that's 9 feet longer than Warren's best takeoff, but Warren had that terrible landing that run. So right now we may see a contender. No!
And that best takeoff is basically
just lost. That's another scratch, guys. That's what happens. We see these scratches from time to time. Like we said, oftentimes as high as 40% of our landings are scratches, and I know that's going to really make Andrew a pretty bummed out guy.
Yeah, I mean, really, Andrew in the position to pop into second against Aaron on that landing, especially with that takeoff.
But you have to keep in mind, though, this airplane has a very heavy prop on it. It's a heavy airplane. It's an airplane that is not just the simplest thing in the world to use, right? So the fact that he is out here getting this kind of performance out of his 0470. Now, it does have a Sportsman Cup. It's got VGs. Has a lot of things going for it, but it's heavy. Ooh, Don.
What? Oh, they're calling that a scratch.
Now, we do know we have Jeff Pohl's father on the line today. Jeff Pohl, one of our light touring, one of our light touring pilots. He is one of the biggest competitors out here, and Jeff's father's on the line, and he's known for his cruelty even to his own son. So if there's even a question, it's a scratch.
Something, either we're getting a little more aggressive in the touring class this final run, or something in the conditions has changed. I don't feel like the wind is any stronger or any less strong.
It may be less. It is feeling a bit lighter right now, but I'm downwind of you. You got the aerodynamics right now are working against me.
That was cruel. Downwind of me. All right, here we go, Warren, for the final run of heavy touring. And a scratch for him as well.
Yeah, that's too bad. That was right on the line, and he is heavy on those brakes. That would have been his best score for sure. His previous best being 202 feet. That looked like about 180, but just a few inches shy of where he needed to be.
So everyone, as the heavy touring class taxis past you here in Hartford, let's get pumped. Cheer for them. They can hear you in the cockpit. Give them a wave.
Get those hands together, guys. These guys did a great job. Absolutely love to see it. We'll be about 5 minutes before our light touring round begins. These guys gave it their all from heavy touring, and obviously Warren Grobel are taking things home with a combined score of 384. Aaron Greer in second place at 403. Andrew Patry 430, and Don Mickey rounding it out at 482 combined feet. Imagining these aircraft with this much ability, being able to get off the ground and land that quickly is just amazing. But we're going to take a moment for a commercial break. We'll be back with light touring and some incredible performances right here at Sodbusters 2022.
right turn. We're good.
Let's meet up at the compound, group up.
At 10-4.
Yeah, for sure, dog.
Good, little driver, straight on through.